Hey everyone, it's David.
And Nancy.
And this is SoulFish, and we are really glad you're here. I want to thank you for watching our videos, for your comments, for subscribing, for helping us build this community. It's been really an amazing experience to get to know many of you, and I'm really excited about today's conversation because so many people are challenged by what they do for a living, are challenged by this need that we have to pay the bills, right? Money. And then they're trying to live their life purpose through their job. So today's video is about how to find your dream job. And I think we're going to have some points for you that show you that maybe our interpretation of what a dream job is might be a little different than, what we've heard, etc. So let me start with one particular thing that I disagree with, that we've all heard before.
Okay, David. Okay.
So there's a famous quote, and I forget the person who said it. When I say famous, whatever, you've heard it, which is, find what you love to do and then make that into your job. Mm-hmm. So, and that's how you get to your dream job.
And then you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
That's the quote.
Yeah, that's the quote, right?
How much you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah,
or
right.
Something to that effect.
My occupation is my vacation, right? That's
right.
that.
But here's the problem with that.
Yeah, right. So let's talk this. We kind of have three big points here. So Nance and I work with a lot of people in life coaching. So a job, Nance and I have been self-employed for 25 years.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of different industries. We have done the corporate-y thing. We've done the anti-corporate-y thing. And here we are today with you. So I think what we have to say is a bit relevant because understanding who and what you are and your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses, and obviously playing to your strengths versus, sucking it up and dealing with your weaknesses is obviously part of your consideration, right? But the idea somehow that your job is going to be fulfilling to you in that way, I just don't see it. And don't misunderstand me.
There are some people who do work that feels completely fulfilling to them, but there's this contamination that occurs that if you choose the thing you truly love to do and it becomes your source of income, it does contaminate what you love to do.
And
so
over time, you're going to not love what you're doing.
It degrades it. It creates a problem because when money gets involved and then what you love to do becomes your way of surviving, it affects the work. It affects what you love to do. And then it can make it feel like, God, I have to make a painting so that I can eat this week. And then you're pressed to make this beautiful painting, but that taints the work in and of itself.
Yeah, right. So it's not a creative enterprise out of love or just inspiration.
It becomes a financial enterprise.
Yeah, it becomes a have to, right? And then you've got to somehow still tap into all of this big creativity, right? In order by Friday to deliver whatever you had promised you're going to deliver. So what were one of the things that we had stated here?
Well, the first one was separating fulfillment from income, which is what we were just talking about.
Okay, so let me touch on that for a second.
Sure.
Okay, so what we mean by that is this, and I'm going to tie in the second point that's in there too, is just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do that. There are plenty of things that you're good at that you can monetize, whether you work for somebody, work for yourself. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to bring you balance or that you should do that.
That's
right?
a huge trap, by the way.
Yeah.
People that are doing a job and they say, well, I don't really love doing this, but I'm so good at it.
How many times do we hear that
and I
every
can
week?
make a really good living at it because I'm really talented in this. But just
Right.
because you're good at it doesn't mean you should do it. You should do something you're good at that you also enjoy doing. So there's a difference between fulfillment and like the thing you love to do versus the work. I enjoy the work, I'm good at the work, and I can make a living at it. And then I have these other things that I really love to do to build my spirit.
Right.
Doesn't you shouldn't
or to
hate
bring you fulfillment, right?
So you shouldn't hate your work.
Right.
Number one, you should not hate what you do. You shouldn't hate the people you work with.
Exactly.
You should say, who do I want to work with? What kind of work do I enjoy doing?
Right.
And that I can make enough income where I can live and feel comfortable and be happy and fulfilled.
Right. And the key in this is understanding that maybe your fulfillment is separate from your income. So for example, if you have a particular income need, so you need $10 a week to handle everything you need to handle so that you have no stress on paying your bills, whatever, right? I'm not talking about you becoming the next Bill Gates of whatever and you're the next billionaire. That's 10% of the population. So this conversation is for the 90% of us.
For most people.
For most people who, aren't going to make their entire life like an astronaut about being an astronaut or about, being the world's best heart surgeon or whatever, and their job is their identity. I get that. So, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's the place.
If you have that passion and that skill set and whatever.
And that's the place you found.
There is a marginal amount of people that do have that.
Right. But I'm not really speaking to those guys because everybody that we work with doesn't feel that way.
Right.
So, so what we really want to talk about is a very different concept, which is what if you were able to segment out your fulfillment side from your income side? Think about the pressure that would relieve. What if you were able to have a job that you were good at, that you were around the right kind of people, that made it sense for you, but you were very clear that was almost like a box, right? Mm-hmm. That you're going to work within this box, and that's going to give you your $10 a week so that you can be free. You're not carrying that baggage of trying to struggle. So many people, because they don't look at themselves, they don't understand who and what they really are, they try to say, well, look, man, I'm gonna get my fulfillment from my job. That is my identity.
Well,
right?
And then they feel terrible because they're not getting that fulfillment. And they say, what's wrong with me? Like, I should love doing this. I went to school for this. I got a degree in this,
That's a good one.
and then they feel like they can't switch. And
Right.
that's, to me, like, that's the real key element there is don't be afraid to shift gears and do something else.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how old you are. David and I have shifted gears several times because we wanted to feel good about the work we do, and we wanted to like the people we work with, and we felt that that's reasonable to say, you know what, I don't want to work with assholes. Like,
Right.
I really want to work with people that appreciate what I do, and I want to give them the best that I can give.
That's right.
And you can't do that if you really resent the people that
Right.
you're delivering to.
Or you're trapped in that scenario, right? Like
Right.
you're just trapped, locked in here, right? So here's a secret I want to share with you that we teach with a lot of folks, and I want to just drop it with you and let you sit with it, which is the concept of absolute income versus relative income. So as you're considering the kind of job, if you think to yourself, hey man, I really love to do art, I love to write, I love to paint, I love to work on this book, but then all of a sudden you say, man, if I could monetize this book. So your shift changes. Before you wanted to write a book and share an experience. You wanted to share a story. You're going to do the illustrations, right? You have this whole vision of how you want to do it. And then somehow there's a switch that gets flipped, and then you start to say, well, how do I monetize this? How do I monetize this? How do I stop doing this thing over here because I just love writing and I just want to do books? And how do I do this? And then you start to monetize and then all of a sudden the thing that was bringing you this excitement, this when you were tapped in, when you were feeling a different place, changes. Absolute versus relative income. Let me give you what I mean. So person A makes $100,000 a year on salary, okay, and works 70 hours a week to do it. Okay, and he's running all sorts of stuff, and he's running around, and has frequent flyer miles, and he can tell you all the best airport lounges. Doesn't see his family,
Right.
Or her family. In other words, but they make $100,000. Okay, so here's person A. Person B, for 70 hours a week. Person B, this guy, he makes $50,000 a year, but he's working 25 hours a week. So the absolute income guy, person A, makes $100,000 a year. This guy, person B, makes $50,000 a year.
But he's working less than half the hours.
Right. And so everybody says, hey, this guy makes more money.
But he really doesn't.
This
When
guy,
you break it down to the time invested, he's making less.
Right.
And so what if you were that guy? How would that feel? Could you survive on that? And also if you did that and then maybe had something else that you did for 10 hours a week and then you could break it up so the monotony isn't there, how would that feel?
Right. So you're starting to see where we're coming from. So when we work with people in our life coaching, for example, what we're really working with them on is the relative income side, person B. Here's why. Society tells us that person A makes $100,000, person B makes $50,000. This guy makes more money.
This guy's
better. This guy is more successful.
Right.
But when you really break it down, you realize that this guy on an hourly basis, stress, has a lot more control over his future and over his day-to-day than this cat does. The problem in both of these scenarios is that both people might get tied up into putting themselves to where they're really maxing themselves out, which is an entire different conversation, right? So right now we're really talking about your dream job. So first of all, the biggest secret I can share with you to help you find your dream job is that you want to think in terms of relative income.
Right.
For example, I want to work 30 hours a week and I want to make $10 a week to do that. That's a very different model. And then you start to say to yourself, well, and I want to work as little as I can, really, right, to make that $10 a week. It's called minimum effective dose, right? You can take a whole bottle of pills and it will not help you any more than if you had just taken the one, right? So you want to do minimum effective dose.
And recognize that your time has value. And so, what would that extra time mean to you? So if you say, if I tapered back and I really looked at my overhead and I was willing to move from my apartment or sell my house or get rid of this expensive car that I bought when I was making $100,000 a year and say, I'm really going to tighten up my model. And I could survive very well on $50,000 or 15,000 less than I'm making now, and then I would have an extra 30 hours a week. And what could you do with that 30 hours a week to make yourself feel good?
That's right.
To do the spiritual stuff that really touches you and makes you feel wonderful, whether it's cooking or being with your family or taking a hike or going on a trip. Time has tremendous value, and people underestimate that. It's just work more to make more money. But what we have found is that the more money you make, your expenses grow at an equal pace. So now I have more money, now I need a bigger house to show that I made more, or I finally made it, I want a nicer car. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like, but it's this model, it's a scale. Yeah. And so everything just keeps increasing and you never really feel
like
the
you got ahead, right?
Right,
like you
so
got
the
ahead.
pressure is intense. Right. You have some nicer things to show for it, but you don't feel better inside of you because the pressure is greater. And now you have to have more responsibilities and you have more people to answer to. And so, you get to this breaking point.
That's right.
So I would say in summation, definitely, as David said, look at your relative income and really think about that. Think about something you would really enjoy doing and what kind of people you want to work with. And don't feel like you're ever trapped where you cannot switch gears. You can always start anew if you're willing to make sacrifices. It may mean your salary drops significantly, you have to move or you have to sell off some stuff or get rid of your cable TV or things like that. But what would that mean to you as a person? How would that make you feel?
If you're running a mile every day and I come up on you and I say, hey, let me take 30 pounds off your back. You've been walking a mile every day, right, running it. And all of a sudden, I take 30 pounds off your back, man, you'd feel like Flash Gordon, wouldn't you? You'd be like, wow, man, I can just hit this mile now without any problems. And in fact, I think I may do 2 miles now that I'm not carrying a big bunch of rocks on me.
The albatross on your back.
Exactly.
Right. Love yourself enough to say, I'm willing to make tough decisions.
Yes.
I'm willing to scale back. I'm willing to live tighter. I'm willing to not eat out anymore.
That's right.
Or really look at my expenses so that I can do something that makes me feel better.
Yes.
And think about the stress that puts on your body when you're in a diseased place where you feel unsettled, you're uneasy with what you're doing. Every day you wake up and go, oh God,
and it's
I can't believe.
It's like the meter's running. You're sleeping and your meter's running, right? And you wake up and you're going, gosh, I got to get to this, man, because I've got all of this stuff I'm responsible for, right?
And it's on you always. It's the constant hum in your mind. And what if you could settle that? And how would that make you feel and put you in this place where you can feel better about your life? It's never too late and it's never too soon.
That's a great line right there for sure.
You can do it. Yeah. You are important. You have value, and how you feel matters. And you should never feel that because you have a degree in nursing that you have to be a nurse if you hate it.
Right. So your dream job is not necessarily where you find all of your fulfillment, which is what everyone's attempt is how do I get so fulfilled. You know, if I become this guy, then I'll get paid also a lot of money, which also goes into my fulfillment.
It's worth me 70 hours a week.
It's a very different thing.
But fulfillment can come if you work less hours and can do more things outside of work. So it's this sort of orb of life, and you don't have to find all your fulfillment in your work.
Yes.
You can say, I have my work and that feels good to me, and then I have all this other stuff outside of work because I looked at my relative income and I said, I deserve to have more time outside of work to really make me feel fulfilled.
And this approach is where we get to help you, and where you'll help yourself realize that without this fulfillment, in other words, without putting all of that pressure on your job. You remember how everybody tells you, when I'm at my job, I want to be home. And when I'm at home, I feel like I'm supposed to be at work. Well, the reason being is because you were trying to put your fulfillment all into your work side, because you spend a majority of your daily life there. But again, if you bring that balance back and get really clear on that, then your dream job was, hey, I needed $10 a week and I only wanted to work 30 hours a week to do it. That is your dream job. You accomplished that. Imagine if you set that goal and then you accomplished that and you had all this other time. You wouldn't feel so unbalanced. So when you're at their job, you could actually be at your job, be present in that moment for that window of time, and then you can be present when you're here and you don't have this constant conflict. And that's the big thing, and that's also what creates so much dis-ease in people, and where they feel like they haven't been successful regardless of what they look like on paper. They just feel like they've missed it somehow. I know that was our experience, that as we gained more and more success in different things and did what everyone told us to do, and
we felt less and less happy.
We felt less and less whole, right?
It became worse. Like the more we achieved and the more success we had and the more things we had, the less happy we were.
Exactly.
Until we finally just said, we're going to give it all up and start clean. So when we say to you, don't be afraid to start over and make sacrifices, we don't take that lightly.
That's right.
We've done it. And so we gave up the whole life that we were told should make us feel happy and feel wonderful.
And here we are with you.
Right. And started anew and basically said, there has to be more or I don't want this life.
Exactly.
And so we gave up on this paradigm we were taught.
And
created a new one.
And found a new one.
So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to change, because you have value. You don't know how many days you have. You don't know what's ahead of you. So create the now that you want, and trust in yourself, and love yourself enough
to live in the now.
Really think about it and really examine it and be true to who you are.
Right on, sister.
Yeah.
I hope that's helpful. And until next time.
Be well.